Hi everybody, I'm Rick Beato. On today's Everything Music, we're going to talk about piano voicings for guitar. Now, long before Allan Holdsworth, there was a guitarist named Johnny Smith that did a lot of piano-style voicings. There's a famous quote from Wes Montgomery about Johnny Smith. He said, "Man, I can never be that perfect. Nobody plays guitar like Johnny Smith." So Johnny Smith was one of the first guitarists that did piano-style voicings. And then you had people like Allan Holdsworth that would play these chords that seem impossible to play. But if you understand jazz piano voicings, you know that, and you understand the piano in general, it's very easy to play half steps and whole steps, whereas on the guitar it's very difficult. To play a half step between these two strings, between the B and G strings, is actually easy, but once you get to these strings, you get a very large stretch there. Okay, so it would be 5 frets. To do a whole step, it's a little easier, but that's a hard stretch for a lot of people. And then you start adding in other notes and it becomes more difficult. So the first thing that I'd like to do is to talk about harmonizing scales using these piano style voicings. And as a warm-up, I think one good thing before we start getting into the big stretches is to take a G major scale. And instead of harmonizing it like this with the triads, right? Instead of harmonizing it with triads, let's start with more close voicings, like with suspended chords, okay? We're gonna start here, though, on this chord. Okay, so this would be, so I'm taking the first available notes in G major, which would be F sharp, B, C, F sharp there, and then, now we have a doubling on the top. This would be G sus4, A sus4, B sus4, and then when you come up to here, you start to hear some of these kind of Holdsworth-esque voicings, but these would be more, these are a little bit easier to play on here than some of the ones we're coming up to. And then when you come up to here, you're up to E sus4. When we get up to here, we're up to our first voicing. So if you take a look at that. So I'm going to do it again. Then it repeats up here. Hard to play unless you have a deeper cutaway. The next set of voicings, what we're going to do is we're going to take the top note of the chord and we're going to move it back 1 scale degree. So I would call this a G major 7 sus4. And then you take this chord and we're going to move every note up the scale. This is before, I'm not even to progressions yet, but I want you to start getting used to these stretches. This is almost like a warm-up. This is your next voicing. So I'm moving every set of notes up 1 scale tone. The first exercise, because I did that, that's showing you how to move these. Okay, so this top note's going to move up like this. And we're going to return back to this first voicing. Okay, so second voicing, a little bit trickier to grab. Okay, so that's going to be A, D, E, G. I'm going to tell you how to use these too in a second. Then we go here to, so we have B, E, F sharp, A. And then here's your first, this is a really cool sound. So this is going to be C, F sharp, G, B. Now what's nice about this is we have that major 7th interval and we have the minor 2nd interval right in the middle of that chord then. Once again, you can see that sus4 voicing in there. You'll see this in a lot of Holdsworth voicings. We'll have voicings like that. Then, as you know from going up in the sus chords, right, we had, then we have, this is a little tricky because we have that half step between B and C there, and we have F sharp, E there. That's not bad. And then we're back to the original voicing of the major 7 sus4, okay? So I'm going to do that again. That's a tricky one. Tricky one there, and then back to the first one. That should start getting your hand warmed up. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the second highest note and move it up 1 scale degree. First voicing that we had from before, and we're going to move this note, the D, up to E. Once again, I'm only using the notes from G major. These are actually modal chord voicings. These are a lot of the same chords you'll hear Allan play, but now you can decide to finger each note like that. It's tricky though, because it's hard to get. What you need to do is you need to keep your thumb on the back of the neck, and you need to just extend that index finger like that. And sometimes you can play on the side of it if you can't really reach it. Now, I don't want anybody to get tendonitis from doing this, so make sure you stretch your hands out beforehand. Now you get into this chord. Okay, that's a cool sounding, that's a sus4 with the third on it, okay? Then you say, okay, well, what is the next scale degrees above that? So if this moves up to here, that moves up there, that moves up there, so I got this. Okay, so from here to here, you can see right here, we're going C triad, D triad, E minor triad, okay, then we're gonna go F sharp diminished triad. So that's the one thing you wanna notice in this exercise. So your first chord is your C major with F sharp on there, okay, would be a C Lydian sound, it's a Lydian major sound. Then you have D sus4 3, right? Then you have the E minor with the fourth on it, right? You have that whole step here. Then we go to the next voicing. Okay, so you get E minor, so you're going to go to F sharp diminished. This is how you find these really quickly, is to know your diatonic triads. And I have a whole video on that, but it's also in the Beato book. So this F sharp chord is going to go up to G and give you a G major with the sus4 there on the top. So I went from here. Then you're going to go to A minor up here. Okay, then B minor. Okay. Hard to play up here on this guitar here because the cutaway my hand's hitting. So once again, I start here and I'm looking at this triad here, and then I have the second interval between here. That's going to move like that. So the top strings are going to sound like this. So it's going to be a series of whole steps or half steps. There's 2 half steps in there. You're going to have your half step here, and you have your half step there. It's right where they would fall in the scale, between B and C and F sharp and G. And then all you have to do is follow your triads up. C triad, D triad, E minor triad, F sharp diminished triad, G major triad, A minor triad, B minor triad. So it's simply those triads with the next available scale degree above it. The next thing to do would be to start, these is where you start getting into piano voicings. I've raised the lowest note up a whole step. And we're going to actually have another series of triads here on the D, G, and B strings, but it's going to be a different set of inversions. It's going to be A minor, B minor. So you see what we did here. Instead of C major and D major, we got A minor to B minor. And instead of D major to E minor, we have the B minor to C major to D major to E minor to F sharp to F sharp diminished right there. So here's how the triads are going to work. We'll start with those first. A minor, B minor, C major, D major. These are all root position, okay? A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, F sharp diminished, and then back to G major up there, okay? So here's our triads here, but they're going to be played with these 3 fingers. This is where it's a little tricky, so you should probably just practice them like this without the index finger first. This F sharp diminished is a little tricky, and then G major. Not too bad. That's actually pretty playable. That's in close position because those are all built in thirds. But it's now we add that second on the top, okay? And we're going to move this second up the scale that way, but holding these different triads. So I got A minor with that major second interval between E and F sharp there. Then this is, okay, so I have B minor triad, and I have the F sharp and G together. That's a real stretch there. And then I'm going to C major. That's like a C major 6 voicing that you'd hear Johnny Smith play. Then Then you do a D6 voicing right there. So D, F sharp, A, B. And then here's the next tricky one. So we got E minor with a C there. Now this is actually easier than this one here because the frets are closer together, simply. And then this one, this F sharp with the D on the top. That's not bad. As the frets get closer, the voicings get easier. And then the next one, so F sharp, then you're gonna go G major with an E on the top. So you have a bunch of sixth chords that you would hear. You'd almost hear it like it's almost like a Hawaiian guitar sound. If I had a whammy bar on, I could make it sound more like a pedal steel. So the first thing to do with this set of voicings is to play your triads, your root position triads like this with the second, third, and fourth finger. Then E minor, F sharp diminished, G major. And then once again, you're gonna just get those, you're gonna have some hard stretches there, okay? I've got the A minor, so I've got this. So the next thing you wanna practice is to practice the stretches here. So I'm gonna go there, 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 there. You wanna play with the side of your index finger. Okay? Once you can do that, then you start adding those extra notes in the chords. But like I said, take your time. Make sure you don't get tendonitis. I'm 55 years old. These are kind of hard voicings to play. These are voicings I've played forever, though. I think once your hand gets used to stretching like this, if you're a young guitar player, shouldn't be any problem. What you don't want to do is give yourself tendonitis. If you watch Allan play, his guitar is actually relatively high when he's playing these chords. Even players like Eddie Van Halen, when he's playing, you'll notice he wears his guitar a lot higher. You can't wear your guitar low and play these. I've got my guitar propped up here, honestly, because I'm trying to fit it in the picture here so you guys can see it. So your first set of chords are the sus chords. Your next set are, you begin with your major 7 sus 4, and then you move every note up a scale degree. Then your next set is this one where you're doing the second inversion diatonic chords. Then the next one is with your root position diatonic chords. That's probably the hardest one you're gonna play. So B, D, F sharp, G. That's really tricky. If you're gonna just grab that chord like that, it's hard. So I would just say, okay, I'm gonna grab that chord. So I'm thinking B minor, and I just plop it down like that. And I just keep trying to do that. Okay, let's put into practice some other voicings that are piano voicings into some 2/5 progressions. I'm gonna take some really standard piano voicings. I'm gonna make a couple alterations because some of the stuff is unplayable. But if you take a typical 2/5 in G and I play A minor 7 to D7 or D13, and then I'm gonna do a G major 7, but I'm gonna voice it like this. Okay, so I'm doing B, G, A, F sharp. It's a cool voicing. So I'm gonna take just the top notes of the chord that you'd use in your left hand if you're a piano player. Now this one is a little bit different because I'm altering it for the guitar. Okay? But I'm trying to keep the consistency of the spacings and the textural sound of it. This is simply a C major 7 chord with a G in the bass. So if you think 4-way close, C major 7, then I do my first inversion. So I go E, G, B, C, and then I'm going G, B, C, E, and that's your voicing. So I'm going, okay, so right here I've got my major third here, G, B, and then C and E are barred here at the 5th fret, if you can see that. Then all you have to do is drop down this one note, and that gives you a D9 voicing, D9 13, okay, if you think about. Instead of playing that, I'm playing this. So all I do is just make one move. This is A minor 7. If I had A in the bass, listen. Then I put D in the bass. Then I'm a G chord. I'm going to do this. So what I'm doing here is I'm playing B, G. So I'm playing B, G, What's up, Layla? You check out that chord? What do you think? You like it?
Yeah, but no one's playing with me.
Nobody's playing with you. Okay, well, I'll help you out here in a second. I'm making a video, okay? I'll come up and play with you in a second, okay? Okay, so once again, 2, A minor 7. This is really a second inversion C major 7 chord. To D9 13. To a G major 7 voicing, but I've got B in the bass. It's B, G, A, F sharp. Once again, here it is on the keyboard. It sounds like this. So on the keyboard it sounds. On the guitar it sounds like this. Your next standard 2-5 is a variation of that. So I'm going to go A minor 7. Then I move it down to D altered, D7 sharp 9 sharp 5, and then I'm going to go to a different G major voicing because the next inversion after that is just about impossible to play. This involves a slightly different technique, and you'll notice Holdsworth, when he's playing some of his chords, he leans his hand backwards. I'll show you this here. So once again, we're voicing the C major 7th chord, G, B, C, E, so, and that's your sub for A minor 7. And then we have to lean our hand back to play the altered chord. So I'm going to go like that and drop it back like that, which is going to be. So 2. So you got to lean the hand back to grab those notes like that. And I bring my thumb up so I can get those notes clean. Then I'm going to bring my thumb up to grab those notes of the chord like that. If you can see that, it's really, really tricky here. So I've got the, right like that. And then we'll maybe go to G major 7 like this. So I've got a D triad with a G in the bass. So 2, bring the thumb up to grab that chord, the G, D altered, and then we're gonna, so I want the voicing to go move chromatically like that, so you have really, really good voice leading. So the next set of voicings are going to be a little different type spacing here. Once again, I'm going to have some of these seconds in them, but I'm going to try and spread them out and look for nice sounding consistent voicing. So I've got D, B, C, E, or I can put the A on top. Then I can go to this for D altered. And then I'm going to go to this for a G Lydian sound. So I've got F sharp, A, D, G, C sharp. That's a nice voicing there. I could go like this. So I have it really consistent. And then, so here we go. 2, 5, 1. Our next 2 5-1 voicings, 2, and then the D altered chord is going to be this. And then the 1 chord is going to be. So 2, 5, 1. Once again, you have D, G, A, C for A minor 7. Then you have, this is for D altered. So I have the 7th, which is C, F sharp to 3rd, the flat 5, the sharp 5. This is a flat 5, sharp 5 voicing. And then I'm going to a major 6th voicing like that for the 1 chord. This next voicing will use a inverted major 7th chord again. So you've got 2 5ths in this chord. If I'm using this over A minor, I've got the 5th, the 9th, the 3rd, and the 7th. So here it is over A. Then on the D chord, I'm going to move it back a whole step. And that gives me the 9th with the sharp 5th and the root in the 5th. It's kind of a different voicing, but it sounds cool. go on my G major 7th. I'm going to do that sus2 chord, so it'd be like D sus2, but with a major 7 there. So 2, 5, same chord down a whole step, 1. Or I can do like this and make. So I've changed one note, and then that's gonna have contrary motion, which is much nicer. It's a really nice sound. So 2, 5, 1. It's really great. The way you find this 2 chord is you do it off the 5th. So the lowest note in the chord is the 5th, which is E. So if I were to play it off want to make a D minor 7 chord, I play it off the 5th, which would be A. So I go to A and I form the chord, and there's my D minor 7 chord. So then I'm going, which would be over G, and then I go to C major 7 like that. So once again on D minor 7, it's off the 5th A, so I have the 5th, the 9th, the 3rd, and the flat 7. Then I go down to G7 altered, which has got the root, the flat 5, sharp 5, sharp 9. And then C sus2 major 7. So 2, 5, 1. Nice contrary motion right there. Now another conceptual thing that you can do to take from the piano is to take voicings that are not based on the root. When you think about left-hand piano voicings, a piano player, if they're going to play A minor 7, many times they'll play A minor 9, and they will play a C major 7 chord over A, or let's say it's here. That would be a close position C major 7. Usually people put it in inversion, because it sounds better like that, because of the spacing of the chord. That open C chord does not sound that great. But using the same principle of using a C major 7 as a sub for A minor 7, so it's built off the flat 3rd, you can do 2 5s in the same way, for example, right? So I'm going to, instead of A minor 7 to D7 to G major 7 in the stock drop 2 voicings, even if you alter it like that, that sounds cool. But what if you go C major 7 to C half diminished to B minor 7, okay? These are all subs for each chord. So instead of C minor 7, I'm thinking like a piano player. I'm going to play C major 7 as a then I'm going to go, because this C half diminished is right out of the D altered scale, okay? And then the B minor 7 is a sub for G major. If I put G in the bass, it gives me a G major 9 sound. So 2, 5, 1. Let's say I take it up here. 2, 5, 1. What did I do there? I did C major 7. Then I did C half diminished, C minor 7, flat 5. Then I did G major 7 over B. Okay, so that's a nice 2, 5, 1. It gets you out of your typical better to go. Or I could make it C6, which is really an inversion of A minor 7. It's just a fresher approach to it. Well, since I can do C major 7 to C minor 7 flat 5 to a B minor 7, well, I could also do it here. I could do C major 7 right here. Then I can say, okay, well, what notes do I have to change to make it C half diminished? And then to make it B minor 7, where would I go? Well, there's a B minor 7 right there. So you can simply go 2, 5, 1. Okay, so let's say I take a four-way close C major 7 over A minor, and then I do C minor 7 flat 5, so I'm going to have to make it a minor and then flat the 5th. So I've got this E flat minor triad with a C in the bass. And then I'm going to do B minor 7. I'm going to go down to here for my G major 7. So, 2 chord is going to be here with C major 7 four-way close. Then I'm going to go to the half diminished chord like that. Then I'm going to go to a B minor 7 chord in four-way close. And that'll give me the same notes as, same thing as, very different sound, same as, those are all variations of just a C major 7 to C half diminished to a B minor 7. In this case, it's a B minor 7 with a flat 6, or a G major 7 over B. Same kind of a sound. Now you can also use drop 2 and 3 voicings using the same concept, and I'm only using one substitution. I'm going the major 7th built off the 3rd of the minor chord to the half diminished built off that same tonic, so C major 7 to C half diminished, or C minor 7 flat 5, down a half step to B minor 7, or the minor 7th chord, a half step down from the half diminished chord. Okay, so if I do the drop 2 and 3 voicing, these are all in the Beato book for those of you that have it. I have C major 7, drop 2 and 3, which would be C, E, F sharp, G. So I've got that nice dissonance there between the 7th and the major and the root. And then I'm going to go to the half diminished chord, which is going to be this chord. So it's root, flat 3rd, flat 7, flat 5. Then I'm going to do B minor 7 like that. So it would be 2 to 5, which would be this, to 1 like this, which would be a major 7, or 1 like that, which would be minor 7. It's a little bit muddy there. I prefer this one. I think that's a nicer sound. 2, 5. So this is acting as a D altered chord, the C half diminished to 1. So let's say I were to do this in a different key, and I did it off the root 5, which means the root of the chord is off the 5th string. So I'm going to do it in the key of D major. So it'd be E minor 7. Okay, so I'm doing a G major 7, drop 2 and 3 voicing. Then I'm going to do a G half diminished, or G minor 7 flat 5, drop 2 and 3. So I'm going to shift these 2 fingers here and play it like that. That's going to give me an A altered for my D major 7 sound. Okay, so it's going to go 2 to 5 to 1. Beautiful sound. Now there's many substitutions that you can use. I just picked one because it's easy to remember. To do the major 7th chord built off the 3rd, the flat 3rd of a minor 7th chord, the 2 chord, and then play the half diminished chord built off that same root. So if you're on A minor 7, you do C major 7 to C minor 7 flat 5 to B minor 7. So these piano voicings, and then taking the concept of the piano voicings, meaning taking a major 7th chord built off the flat 3rd as your minor 7th chord, giving a minor 9 sound, and then going to the half diminished chord built off the flat 7 of the dominant chord, or built off the same root as that major 7th chord to the minor 7th chord down a half step as a 2-5-1 substitute. It's taking these piano concepts from the stretch voicings here, where you're getting all these seconds and things like that in, more like piano voicings, and then taking the concept of piano voicings where piano players will play that major 7th chord, C major 7 over A, and then they'll drop that note down on D, or they'll do that C major 7, and then they might do this with a half diminished C minor 7 flat 5 over D, And then I'm going to play like a B minor 7 for my 1 chord, which would be this. That's all for now. Please subscribe here to my Everything Music YouTube channel. And if you're interested in the Beato book, which has all these concepts and these voicings in there, you can write me at rickbeato1@gmail.com.